Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Arif Khan for Islam Media, and I would like to welcome you all to our weekly podcast. This is a podcast for week number 2. And as always, I have my sidekicks here, Mr. Hanan Ghafoor and Ahmad Hussein.
Assalamu guys.
And also, we'll be adding here Mr. Omar Sawi,
Alaikum.
just in the nick of time. Well, gentlemen, I think the first 2 weeks we've seen all the teams play. And last week we had some teams as well, obviously, who played. So let's talk about them a little bit. So this is obviously week 2 preview. If you want to go to the next slide. So some of the stuff that we'll cover today is basically the post game review from last week, as well as the stars of the game, or actually and the One World Halal Player of the Week, as well as any kind of league announcements, and then we'll do a sort of a week 2 preview as well. So last week, guys, we had the first game, which was between Subur and Iman. And this game ended in a 5-3 win for Yellow.
Yeah, so I watched this game. To be honest, from my side, this was an intense game from the beginning. I thought Orange, which is Iman, dominated well in the first period. They had the first goal with, I believe, was it Ahmed Khalid, who was once Rookie of the Year? An amazing goal where he got past the goalie. Now, that domination in the first half did not translate well into the second half, because that's when Subur Yellow started to snap and started scoring all the goals. The problem I had with this game, and this comes from the GMs downwards, is a reflection of how you play is a reflection of how your team's going to do. I think there was a lot of penalties, a lot of unnecessary penalties that came from the GM side that I would love to see cleaned up, because you're not leading by example if you're taking these these unnecessary penalties. And I think from Iman's side, they had a big hustle at the end, and at the end of the day, I think with only 5 minutes left, it was 5-1. At the end, it was 5-3. If you clean up your game, you never know. Don't stop until the last buzzer hits, and you don't know what could happen. It could have been a tie game, if anything.
Yeah, well, I think on that vein, I was also watching the game. I was the guy shooting the highlights, and
Great job on it, by the way.
Thank you. So you're right. I do think though that where Orange maybe started lacking a little bit, it was as a result of Jihad. Jihad looks like he maybe sustained a bit of an injury, and then he withdrew from the game. And so Jihad is a force, right? Especially on defense, he solidifies and he really calms everything down. Especially when he has the ball, he's really good at dictating the pace of play. And so when you remove that, you remove a huge part of what Iman is able to do, or stop rather. Bearing in mind, Yellow was also missing 2 of their GMs. So I don't know if we got a complete look at all the teams. What I can tell you is that fatigue definitely appeared to be a factor for Orange. They did look tired, right? And I don't know if it was just a short bench or if they were just not in game shape. So
there was no back checking. There was no back checking. One guy at a time. Either Wakar would back check. I mean, you're leaving your defense high and dry, and I think especially in this league, you have to back check. And I think especially my GM, that's the one thing to say. If you're not going to score, you're running back to stop the goal from going on your own net.
There were probably 3 different phases to this game. When it first started out, Iman was guns blazing all over Subur, and I don't necessarily know why that is. Maybe it was because Subur, there are a lot of guys who hadn't played with each other before, whereas in Iman, they do have a lot of familiarity on that team. And, it's a first official game of the season. A lot of guys on both teams weren't able to make it for the exhibition game. So I think Iman really took advantage of that early on in the game. And this is how we mentioned Jihad got injured, and that's kind of when you saw the tide turn a little bit. And Subur started to take advantage there. You had Asim Patel, who we'll probably talk a little bit about in a couple segments tonight, but he had a very strong game. He especially when Jihad went down, he was able to take advantage of the defense going down. And then you take a look at later on in the game, very late in the game, when Subur was up 5-1, I believe. Iman had a bit of a comeback going. They got a power play. Tayyip Kalair had an incredible game. I think he could have easily been the first star as well. not just because of the goals he scored, but he was literally all over the place. That, you know, there was one sequence where he was behind the Iman net and fighting off two defenders. He dropped his stick, he picked it back up, and he still had the ball. I mean, that was just an unbelievable sequence. So he scored 2 late goals in the game to bring it relatively close. I mean, when you're down 5-1, it's tough to come out on top. But I would break it down into those 3 phases.
Well, considering that I think I'm the only one who actually played in that game. Let me chime in a little bit on it as well.
First, can you change that background back there?
Oh, you don't like this?
What is
You don't like
that?
Oh no!
You
It was
don't
okay
like
with
that?
the hat
You don't like
before,
that?
but then now you add everything else. It's,
The hat was, you know what? We excuse the hat, but it just seems like you keep adding logos every single podcast.
You can thank Tahir on my team for this. You know, he instigated this animosity between the Habs and the Leafs. So Tahir, this is for you, buddy.
Thanks a
I
lot.
think it goes way back further than Tahir. So
That's true. That's true. Anyways, that's for another podcast, guys. But for this this past game that we played, yeah, it is true that Jihad obviously brings a lot. But guys, we had two GMs missing, and you know, 2 really really talented stars on our team, arguably the best players. You know, I know Hamza was there, Asim was there, but you know, Yusuf and Shahid missing. That's huge for our team. We got scored on really early because we were just trying to figure things out, and we got scored. But then I think we settled in, and you know, Orange also took a lot of penalties. There was a 4-minute major in there. There was another penalty at 2 minutes where we scored right off the face-off. So you know, they didn't make it easy for themselves, Iman, first of all, and we took advantage of it. And then halfway through the game, we really settled down, and I think pretty much the whole second period it was 5-1, and Orange started to come back. So I called a timeout and I told the guys, let's try to settle it down. You know, it's 5-1, but anything can happen. And things started to get a bit loosey goosey, and that's when they scored the 2 other goals. But you know, obviously my opinion's a bit biased here, but I think we played really well, and we were nowhere near how good we can play, especially with our 2 GMs missing.
Okay, Salman Khalid.
That's going to be our line for this year.
No, I agree. I think you guys did have a very good game. I appreciate the fact that you guys got contributions from up and down the lineup. Like for instance, RFI, you had a goal. Khalil Coker had a goal. And you know, the other 3 goals, or Asim had 2 goals, and I'm not sure who had the 5th. Josefa, right?
Josefa, yeah.
And by the way, I do need to shout out Josefa a little bit, right? Is he, for where he was drafted, man, he is an absolute steal. You know, just watching him, he has some amazing poise you know, on the blue line, and you know, coming from a fellow defenseman, like you can tell, you know, when he gets the ball, there's no panic, right? Even if somebody's rushing at him, they just, you know, he kind of, you know, he's played the game so long that he knows, you know, you can see almost the gears turning in his head to make the right play, and his shot is, you know, mashallah, is like, you know, very little wind up, and there's such a quick release, and very almost like a laser, right? So he's definitely someone that I think once the other 2 GMs are able to play, that's going to be a formidable top, you know.
And you know, with Husley, he said that he wasn't even feeling it. It was his first game in a long time. He said he was tired. He didn't have his legs. The way he played, if that's his, again, Salman Khalid line, if that's his 4, I'm not worried. I'm not worried.
No, I think that yellow definitely has earned some podcast respect.
Indeed. All right, so then moving on to the next game of the evening. By the way, if you just go back 1 second, Omar. Imad. Asim Patel did finish as a top star because he had 2 goals, and one of them was in the game 1, potentially you know, goal of the year candidate. It was just spectacular, end to end, one-handed tuck on the goalie, just spectacular.
Yeah, it was definitely something that you have to see, and thankfully we got it on video. So
Yeah.
if you haven't seen it yet,
Omar.
head on to Instagram.
Yeah, beautiful,
All right.
beautiful goal.
Let's move on to the next game of the night. We had Blue Ridda versus White Yakin, and this ended up as our friend Samad Hamidi forecasted in a tie, 1-1.
sorry, I watched this game and it was a tough game to watch. There was a
Why?
lot of like neutral zone play,
Mhm.
and there wasn't really like a lot of anything really going on in terms of like exciting plays, right? I think that both teams got tired quickly, especially White. And so they resorted to something that was not necessarily a game that they're known for. So they resorted to a lot of point shots. They resorted to a lot of like, let's cross the red line and take a slap shot. Whereas that's not their game at all. Their game is a very similar to how Daoud and Hamza play, where they'll cycle it down low, or they're extremely efficient when it comes to scoring on the rush, right? So they'll beat you at speed, and then they'll almost hit a cross crease for the goal. Whereas we didn't see a lot of that, and I don't know if it's a testament to Blues defense, or it was just that they were too tired to make those plays work. They did, scratch out a tie at I think it was 40 seconds left. I mean, Hanan can maybe chime in, but it was a beautiful shot by Josefa Panchbaya, and he just he rifled it, and 9 times out of 10 he'll score that shot. But if it wasn't for that shot, they probably would have lost the game, and just due to them not being able to find their rhythm a little bit. So I guess the question mark for White becomes, are they going to find that rhythm, and if and when they do, is it going to be in time?
being in the game myself, I mean, the value add from Yakin is that at least they crossed the red line before they shot, unlike Zaydora from Ridda, where on the power play he shot it from his own end of the zone and ended up getting an icing call on a power play, which is obviously not what you want to see. But Yakin, and I think one of the things with Kazi is that they took a lot of penalties, and to be honest, I think Kazi took the white jersey thingy that there would be some sort of privilege or something, but no, you still got all the penalties. Half the calls are tripping, so I think they really do need to clean up their game there too. Especially, you don't want someone like Madra taking a penalty in the second. That's one of your GMs, and you kind of want to clean up your game. Obviously the big thing I saw from both teams, and one of the issues I did see is that they tightened the bench. And I think a lot of it's just due to special units. This is a game where we did see a lot of the special unit play come through. And when that happens, I feel like if GMs don't have structure or understand what they're doing, you start pulling in, you have your special unit, and then you kind of forget who do you bring on next or who hasn't played yet. And I think there was a lot of exhaustion. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think the top line for Ridda ended up on the entire penalty kill for Yakin's play that they had Huzefa scored the goal. And that's the issue. Is that if you're not getting off, you don't have fresh legs, people are just going to stand there, and you don't want to stand there when someone like Huzefa has the ball or someone like Asif is feeding Huzefa the ball, which is a great job from Asif as well. Asif Bika, I like to give a shout out for him on the nice feed.
What confused me a little bit was that, like you mentioned, there was about a minute left or something like that, and so Blue put their, if you want to call them their big boys on.
Yeah.
And RC, who played the entire game on forward, then dropped back to defense for that 1 minute, right? And I don't know. I mean, RC has played defense before, and so he's capable of the position. But if your guys are tired, you either call a timeout, or put guys that have fresh legs on. And unfortunately, I don't think that happened, and maybe they got burned a little bit. We do know that Osman Butter wasn't playing. And so, that there was a GM missing, and by all measures, a game breaker as well. So I do think that, again, like you said, exhaustion played a factor. And I actually have to wonder whether or not teams will actually find their legs this season. If everybody will find their legs this season, I don't know. Like, if guys are just playing once a week and they're this out of shape, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think that we may have to wait till like the winter season to see, what everybody's full potential might be.
Yeah, I agree. And Usman Batar was missing from Ridda, but Yakin was also missing Kadir Motiwala. So I think he has a huge impact on the game as well. So that I think those two kind of negate themselves. Yakin was also a little bit short benched on their third line, if you could call it that, with some of their guys who weren't able to make it. So I think that played a little bit of a factor in it too. But it, like you said, Omar, it was a little bit of a tough game to watch. There wasn't too much happening, and it came down to 2 plays in the end.
I think that. Sorry, I think that. Again, I'm postulating that White might suffer from something similar to what we criticize on Black, where there's a lot of personalities that need the ball. So you have Kadir, who will thrive with the ball. You have Arsal, who will thrive with the ball. And then you have Huzaifa, who will thrive with the ball. And Kazi, who will thrive with the ball. And then, you'll have basically the trigger man, who in my opinion, is Abu Manjra a lot of the times. But again, you have so many people that thrive with the ball that I feel like there's a logjam, right? Only one person can have the ball at a time. And so, maybe fatigue was one, but I think, getting comfortable with everybody and sort of their play style might be another thing for Yakin to think about.
I think they could potentially make it work. It's just a matter of, okay, how do they break them up? Kadir has had success with the three GMs before in the past season before the pandemic. So I definitely think they can start making it work again. But it might just be a case of making or splitting Kadir and Arsal between two different D pairings and giving them adequate ball time.
Can't argue with that. And to be honest, I think I do agree. It's about just cleaning up the game. It's not just about getting legs, but it's about trusting your own team and rotating through the lines. I think you got to see what your team's capable of, and sometimes it's about putting other the whole roster out there and just analyzing and being able to determine your strengths and weaknesses from there, and finding ways to either improve your team or find a way to hide your weaknesses, so to speak.
RC got a really nice goal too in that game where he went end to end. I think I want to say he half deked out Arsal, but I think Arsal also kind of tripped and fell. But either way, Arsal was on the ground and RC just went around him, held on, and just roofed it. So that was a beautiful goal on his side.
Yeah, and I think Blue, they had some quality chances. But they ended up missing the net a lot in that game as well. And so you have someone like Faraz Alvi who got some really clean looks that game.
Yep.
It just, he ended up putting it over the net, I think, more than once. And so I think, again, if that's a matter of rust, once, everything kind of lines back up, I would venture, I guess, to say that, Ridda might be a candidate to say, okay, well, we're going to get some more goals and we might be a little bit more of a threat offensively.
Was Faraz playing forward?
Yes.
Yeah, he was. But there were a few shots he took from the point, though. I can't recall if that was during the power play or not, but as how you recalled, I mean, there was some.
He was on a line with RC, or he was on line with RC. But I mean, personally speaking, I like Faraz better on defense. That's just my own opinion. He is someone that can go back and forth, but I think with the caliber of talent, I think that Faraz might be a better help to Ridda on defense as opposed to offense.
But Omar, if you're both on defense, you guys don't get an opportunity to chirp as much.
Oh no, don't worry. If he's on, I will make it a point to go end to end just to, I'm sure he'll do the same. He'll pinch a little bit just to get in my face.
I need to have you and for us, I need to have both of you mic'd for a game.
I will oblige to that. I will oblige to that. One thing sorry, go ahead.
The only thing I was going to say, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Nadir Ahmed, the goalie of Ridda. Fantastic game, absolutely fantastic game. And I think even Ridda would say, like, that game, if we had to give a first star out, we would have all given it to Nadir. He kept us in there. But the one comment from Nadir is also, he can only do so much. We got to still bring the firepower. And it is tough, unfortunately, when you have a goalie like Mohamed Patel drafted first overall for goalies in net on the other side. But I think this was definitely a good stepping stone to see, the talent that Nadir is. And I think he was definitely a steal for Ridda, capturing him in the last round.
Yeah, for sure. I think Nadir. Sorry, yeah, Nadir he's looking like the real steal in terms of the goalies. Yep. He played fantastic. I talked to him after the game as well. Mashallah, really nice brother. He's very excited to be in the league, and that's the type of personality we need here. And also a big shout out to Ridda's young stars there. They really played well, and you know what? Playing with guys like Rizzi and Ali Wadi, you guys need to really listen to them because they're the veterans that can really teach you. So it's a great opportunity for you guys to also learn from some grizzled veterans. So yeah, good job on that game, guys. One
thing I did want to mention as just a general reminder for everyone is unfortunately in last week and even in the previous week, so both 1A and 1B, there was quite a bit of like, I don't think it was malicious, but there was quite a bit of dangerous plays on the board, right? When it came to like, maybe someone in a vulnerable position and somebody hitting them or engaging with them a little bit harder than necessary. So I just want to remind everyone that, alhamdulillah, we are, all playing for fun. None of us, to the best of my knowledge, are getting paid to play in Islam. If you are, let me know. I think that we should have a conversation.
You need a new agent.
Exactly. But just a reminder, right, is that, everybody has to go to work on Monday. A lot of us have families that, we need to, care for. And so I think they might be wise to kind of let up if it's possible. There's nothing wrong with pinning somebody on the board. But I think that if somebody's in a vulnerable position, you may want to slow down a little bit, just in the interest of everybody's safety.
Well said.
Yeah, good reminder.
And don't forget, we do have a rule in Iceland, no swearing for us LV. So just make sure you guys just keep that in mind, the other LV brother.
I know we're just tongue in cheek there, but it is true, right? Like one of the I guess the founding principles of Islam has been always brotherhood and observing Islamic values. So minding your tongue, your anger, etc. This we might laugh about it, but it is true that we really need to get back to that time when people were actually respectful about it. So yeah, good reminder for everyone.
And in our league, swearing is in the rule book as a penalty. So I mean, it's up to the refs to enforce it. Yeah. But just as a FYI, it's there.
And that's the other thing. Like we have refs, we have other people who are non-Muslim. It's also our responsibility to show a good example, right? They ref a lot of games around the city, even provincially, and we don't want to just look like another league that behaves like hooligans, if you will, right? We have to do better for ourselves and set a good example. So. All right, let's move on to the next one, guys. So Asim Patel, he is our One World Halal Player of the Week. And if you haven't seen the video, let me see if I can pull it up here.
There's a reason why his friends call him Awesome Patel. It's just,
oh my God.
Like that.
This is a cringy podcast.
Yeah,
oh, Hanan.
I didn't know you were a dad already, Hanan. I'm coming out with the dad jokes.
I have the dad bod without being a dad.
And the dad jokes. That was what I was implying.
All right, so I think I got it here. Pulled it at the right spot. So he got quite a few breakaways. This is one of the breakaways he made for himself. Great save there by Khalid Mufti. We also have
that's an amazing goal.
That was a nice goal too.
Yeah.
That's also a very nice goal.
Sweet.
But I think the next one's coming up here. And so there we go. Here's the goal, right?
And that's Wakar that he got by.
Exactly. Not just look at that. Look at that.
Just tucked it in.
I was there on the wing. I saw it all, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is crazy." So yeah, not only were they beautiful goals that he scored, but he set up plays. He was part of the penalty killing, part of power play. So he contributed heavily for the win.
Absolutely.
So congratulations, Asim.
Yeah, and congratulations, and courtesy of One World Halal, he'll be getting a prize, which is great.
Cool. One of the questions was those prizes. Is it every week, or is there some kind of like
every week?
At the end of the year you get it?
It's a weekly prize. So they'll be contacted by the league when the prize is ready to be collected or received. And so there'll be one prize given out every week.
Cool. That sounds good. Maybe it would be nice if we can get a picture of the next time we hand it out, just so that everyone can also see.
For sure.
All right. What's next on the menu here? So, league announcements. Let's see.
What are you sipping on, Hanan?
Johar Jashunda. That's what it's called.
What?
Johar Jashunda.
You probably wouldn't know what it is unless you're Pakistani Indian.
It's a Pakistani Indian.
Are you sick?
No, it just tastes good. I have no idea. I'm hooked onto it.
Someone check his screening.
Hannan's gonna have to do a urine test next game.
Just curious.
Aliwadi, please bring a container. So speaking of screening, I guess it segues nicely into here. As of the 22nd, which is today, there's going to be a requirement to have your COVID shots in a digital or paper format. So when you get to the rink, you will be asked for it. And it's not just us; it's not the league doing it. This is actually the facilities. So it doesn't matter who you know. If you don't have it, you won't get in. I mean, even us as media team and OCs and whatnot, we don't get any special treatment. If you don't have it, you get locked out. There's been already several players that it has happened to. So you still have to file your COVID form before 3 p.m. on Friday, but now you also have to show your digital PDF or paper of a proof of vaccination.
And it's also important to note that you need to have it has to have been at least 14 days from your second dose to be allowed to enter. So, I know some guys have been trying to get their doses in since the announcements were made, but just be mindful of that and no surprises when you arrive.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so let's move on to the next slide here. So this upcoming week, what do we have here? So we have a full lineup here, guys. So it's not 2A and 2B. Inshallah, this Friday we have 4 full games. All the teams are playing. No one's staying home. So first on the docket, we have Taqwa versus Ikhlas, and that I believe it's black versus Ikhlas? Green, right?
Yeah.
Green. So I'm wearing the green shirt. Yeah, you know what? I think this is going to be an interesting game to see based on week 1 performance. I know it's a small sample size, but I think Taqwa's probably going to have a rough night. We know that Farouk Khan is rumored to be out for the next few weeks with an injury. So it really comes down to the team, and hopefully they can get some more chemistry from last game or build on the chemistry that they had last game to be better able to play with each other. At this point right now, it seems like they were all fighting for the ball, and it's not going to work like that. So, and Ikhlas, they had instant chemistry, a lot of guys who've played on teams together before. So they're ready to go. And I suspect that it might be a little bit of a one-sided affair.
And I think that, if Black is, still fighting for the ball, they might not have to worry because Ikhlas seems to always have the ball. So, if week 1 sample is anything
Why are you laughing, Hannan?
Everyone needs to drop the drink, okay? So I'm okay. Ali, don't trade me. I'm in good health.
No, but look who sent it in.
Oh
It's
yeah,
Jawad.
my boy Jawad. Shout out to he is a good player, okay? Just because I forgot that one time he wasn't playing in this league, it's not on me, okay?
All right, so going back to Omar, sorry, we cut you off.
And so I guess the point I'm trying to make, right, is that it is really important that Taqwa gets their game plan straight. Yeah. And if I know that they are all offensively gifted, but I think that they may want to have a defensive plan when it comes to the green team, right? I don't think this game can be run and gun. I think this game has to be a little bit more structured on the part of Black, especially if they are indeed missing Farouk Khan this week. I think they need to come in with a game plan. They can't just come in and say, okay, well, let's figure it out on the floor. I think a lot of talking needs to be done beforehand.
Are there a lot of people going to be missing? Because I think there's some baseball tournament going on. I know it's not a real sport, but like people somehow still want to participate in those. But are they going to be missing?
I don't think it impacts either of these two teams, from what I've heard.
Yeah, I would say there's quite a bit. I mean, I don't know about this game in particular, but I know that there are quite a bit of, of league members playing in this tournament. So it'd be interesting to see, if we make these predictions every week, but then we show up on the game day and then there's a key guy missing, right? Yeah. So and then it basically completely throws off our predictions as well because we assume that this is a full roster when we're making these things.
I think the main thing for me for the Taqwa versus Glass game is, and you kind of nailed it on the head, Omar Isawi, is that, Black needs to find structure, but I think seeing the dominant performance that Ikhlas had, I think they are a force to reckon with. And even if they're short bench, I wouldn't take that as an advantage. I just think that as almost as a disadvantage. Is you'll get more time from their top guys and their GMs to be on the floor. And Tuckwell really needs to. I think at the end of the day, it's about leadership. And I think the lack of Farouk is what's causing that. We see, like as you mentioned, a lot of individual efforts, but we don't see any leadership. We don't see people organizing the defensive line, the offensive line. Because once that team comes together, I think we'll see a lot more from Tuckwa.
And we haven't really talked about Ikhlas, but I mean, they had a near perfect performance in week 1A, and I think they're only going to get better from there. So it's only up from here.
I think I don't. They had a near perfect game, I guess, to the observer, but I did notice that they did shorten their bench a bit, right? When it came to the second period. So Ikhlas,
okay.
Right? They did shorten their bench. And it's going to be interesting to see if they will develop the trust that's necessary to win a championship, to be able to roll. Put your second line out there, put your potentially third line out there. I know they were missing guys the first week, but I mean there were some players that it was evident that the bench was shortened a bit, I guess, to pull out the win. So good teams are able to find a way to trust all lines, and let's see if that happens for them this week.
Cool.
Yeah, completely agree.
Second game, we have Iman versus Ridda, which is orange versus red. No, it's on its red.
Yeah, blue. So orange versus blue.
Yeah,
so
blue.
I'm in this game. So I'm excited for this game in general, just on the grounds that Ridda and Yakin, based off of power rankings we've seen 2 weeks ago, were hailed as on the bottom of the team list. And I think this is a good opportunity for Ridda to show that they are the underdog and that they shouldn't be taken lightly. As you said, we've seen a lot of great talent from the youngsters, both of the Claires that are on the team, but at the same time, I wouldn't discontinue Iman. I actually thought they had an impressive showing against Subur. I think they were short bench, so it did hinder them a little bit. But I think they also underestimated Subur and what they were capable of. So it's going to be interesting to see how both of these teams compare. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this plays out.
I would expect that Osman Butter would also be out. If I'm not mistaken, he's a big softball guy.
He will be out.
So he'd be missing, and I don't know what Jihad's injury status is from last game, right? So I don't know, they might cancel each other out, and then we see what we're left with. Yeah. But in my opinion, I think it's harder for Iman to replace the contributions of Jihad than it is the contributions of Osman Butter, and Ali Wadi and Rizwan Claire can kind of pick up the slack. But I don't know if they have someone that can replace Jihad and what he brings to the team, especially on the back end. So it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust and compensate if he's indeed missing.
Yeah, I agree with that, Isawi, 100%. And I think compounding that even more is that Iman is Jihad's one of their defensemen, as he's mentioned, but then Fuzzy is potentially injured too. So if they're down 2 defensemen, who really drops back, and then it takes away from their offensive capability. We saw Sani drop back to D last week, and I mean he makes he's amazing out there as a forward.
Good on D. He looks good on D.
He looks good on D, but I think he's way more effective as a forward.
Oh, yeah.
Very multi-talented guy, but they're missing out on his offensive capability. So if he has to stay back there, and then another forward has to go drop back as well, just to stabilize the D, then I think it makes it very difficult for them from the get-go.
Exactly. And I mean, look, you have Vasim Kagzi, who's no slouch on defense. And then you have Tayyip Khaler, who's also played defense previously. Somebody told me that he's forward now, but he has played defense previously. So you have 2 very good defensemen. I think the challenge becomes is what happens after they return to the bench. Like, they can't obviously play the whole game. And I think, based on those highlights, Asam Patel burned individuals that were not defensemen, right? He burned Wakar on the move, and then I think it was I think it was one of the Hussein brothers, right? That he burned on the second goal, right? So you have guys that were trying to play defense who maybe don't know the position as well, and so it's going to be interesting to see what Iman does after Vasim and Tayyib.
before we pick on Wakar's piece in that goal, if I recall, Wakar actually hustled back to cover for someone, right? So it wasn't that
100%.
he was playing D or that they just went through a guy like him. I got to stand up for my boy Wakar here. He came back and back checked and tried to get back in the play and stop it, but it's still a beautiful goal that they scored.
One thing about Wakar I noticed in last week's game is he fell down quite a bit, and I know he's coming off of injury in the offseason, and I don't know if that's impacted his game a lot. He looks good out there. He's out in the rush. He's possessionally sound, like you mentioned. RF, he was back checking and covering for his D on that one goal, but I just wonder if he's not 100% at this point.
Yeah. All right. Third game of the night will be Isan versus Haya, which is red versus gray.
So Omar, you're on Isan, I believe. You too, Iman. So maybe I'll let you guys take it away first in terms of your predictions, in terms how you feel for this game.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I'm probably gonna not make predictions for my own team. It's weird, right? Because I'm always gonna predict that we're gonna win, because who wants to come in as a loser, right? And then you walk into the locker room, and then all of a sudden you're on the bench because you predicted they're gonna, right? So, but predictions aside, I think that one of the things that became very apparent from our first game, at least, was that Ihsan is willing to work, right? We're willing to, for lack of a better word, we're willing to hustle, and we're willing to get into the dirty areas of the rink, right? And make sure that if we're not going to score, the other team isn't going to either. And I think we did that really well. And I think that if we can stick to that consistency, it'll match well against what the team that Haya has constructed, because they've constructed a very big, physically strong team. And then especially our third line last week of Imad Mobeen and Omar Sadat, they didn't back down from anyone. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if they're able to agitate the bigger players on Haya. It may result in some power play time for us, we'll see how it kind of goes. But Haya looked visibly frustrated against Green. They looked visibly tired, so I'm gonna. It's going to be interesting to see, if they come out with their legs, right? And I do believe that there are some Haya players that are possibly nursing injuries as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of adjust. I did make a suggestion. I do think that it will be beneficial for them to try putting Hamoudi up. I think that Hamoudi is a stellar defenseman, but I also think that he is a game changer when it comes to offense, just because of his size and his stick handling ability. And so they played him on defense last game, and I had just on the way out, I mentioned to Sufyan, I said you may want to consider putting Hamoudi up and seeing how that changes the dynamic. He's just a really big center who's very mobile. He's able to go up and down the rink, and that's one adjustment that I would make if I were them. But obviously,
Omar, are you going to be there?
There's one thing to say about being Brotherhood League and then also helping your opponent set up for you against the following week. Did you realize we were playing them next week?
At the time, I didn't know they were playing us. Am I going to be there? I will be there, RFS. I will be at the rink.
Are you going to be playing?
So I have to consult with the trainers and ensure that I'm not needed. I'm not required to do any load management or anything like that.
Why don't you just take a drink of what Hanan is having here, and you'll be fine?
It's the cure for everything.
I might ask him to bring me a thermos.
Thermos, yeah.
All right.
With this game, I think that, we mentioned it for the games from last week as well. Attendance is going to be a key for a lot of games this season. One thing is that there are a lot of guys who haven't necessarily been very active during the break, and it's going to take some time for them to get up to speed. And the second thing is the rosters are smaller. There are only 13 guys out there. So if you're missing one or two guys, it really messes up with your lineup, and it's just difficult to keep up the intensity for the entire game. So for Isan, I can definitely say, it's just seeing from our first game, is that if we're going to win, it's going to have to be a full team effort. And if we're missing a bunch of guys, then it can definitely hurt us a lot, maybe more than some other teams.
I think Ibrahim Hindi called it the Isan plan.
Is that what he called it?
Yeah, I think in on one of the videos that I was editing, I heard him in the background. He was saying that, yeah, it's the Isan plan, not the.
No, thank you. We'll
Uh,
we'll file that. We'll
doesn't
file
have a
that
ring
under
to it.
garbage.
I think Omar coined the term Isan intensity a couple
Yes.
weeks ago.
It has
Oh,
to be
yeah, I
like
like it.
racing, guys.
So
Yeah.
it's basically intensity versus hustle. So we'll see how that fares.
Yeah, exactly.
And the last game of the evening will be Yakin, which is white versus Subur yellow. Hanlan, what's your take on this?
So definitely I want to see Yakin clean up their game because I think Subur is going to come out rolling. Like we've already seen what they did without two of their GMs, so you can only imagine how intense is the game. I hope both Kadir and Arsenal are back on defense, but the core thing is, make sure all of your defense understand what they have to do and back check accordingly because that's going to be key here. And the thing about Yakin, and we saw it from some of the videos there, Mandra, Huzaifa, all these guys do know how to back check, so they're going to bring the pressure on Subur. The question is, have that energy ready so that once you've done the back check, once you've retained the ball, have the intensity to just go back and get that goal. Yakin does have a lot of great shooters, but we've also seen the same thing from Subur. So I do anticipate that this is going to be either, everything's open and everyone's going to start scoring, or they're going to really tighten down on this game and everyone's going to close off. But the thing is, you have to be very careful. We've seen Awesome Patel, we've seen Subur, and how all it can take is one person to go through your entire team and win it. And you got deadly shooters on the back end with Huzaifa Mantra, so don't think you're in the clear just by guarding the forwards. But and Yakin side, I know Kadir and Arsenal, they're great. They have shooters, but having a true sniper, that's something I want to see a little bit more on Yakin's back end.
I'm anticipating this game in particular, having quite a few people missing. If I'm not mistaken, like one of the Subur GMs is on the poster for the tournament, right? And then I'm sure at least from what I understand, the Malton crew has picked up softball, so I anticipate them also possibly being missing. So, I mean, just hypothetically speaking, I don't have any inside information, but you have possibly the GMs of Yakin missing, possibly the GMs of Subur missing, and so it really comes down to who drafted the best, and for me, right, if that's indeed the case, right, Arif is smiling a little bit, so he obviously probably knows something that we don't. I don't think he's gonna.
No, I'm just thinking that it would be funny if this ends up being a match between line 2 and line 3.
Yeah, no
and
GMs.
and that might very well be the case, right? That very well might be the case, and that's why I said it's going to come down to who drafted a better lineup, and
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I think that I may have to put my money on Subur.
I'm with you on that. I think, especially based on the performance last week, they have a deeper lineup that's more up to speed and ready to play than maybe Yakin might be. It might need a couple more weeks to gel and get ready.
I don't know. Knowing Kazi, if he knows that the Subur GMs are not showing up, he's going to patent those gold leads and become, get that Art Ross trophy. So you can guarantee that Kazi's contemplating at this point. Is it worth really skipping out at this point when I can just get like 4 or 5 goals in one game and call it a day?
I don't know.
That's what happens when you take up a game that's not really a sport for hockey. Yeah. Anyways, that's a different story. All right, gentlemen. What's any other slides here, Ahmad?
I don't believe so.
Okay, well, I guess we have come to the conclusion of our episode. Gentlemen, once again, thank you so much for spending some time here. Thank you to the audience, both who are watching this in replay and also to the folks who are watching this live. Just a reminder, we do this every Wednesday, 10 p.m. Sometimes we got a little late, but more or less, we aim to do it at 10 p.m. Eastern. So, if you're watching this after, please join us. It's more fun when it's live. As you can see, we get, we have messages and comments that pop up that we like to interact with. So, just makes it a bit more fun for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. And we will see you all on Friday, inshallah.
All right.
Sound guys. Take care.